All right, here we go. It's great to have you here on the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That's Dalton Brown. It's going to be a wild program today, I think, with everything that's going on.
Oh, yeah.
In baseball at the moment. We have a week left to go in the regular season, and nobody is safe here, it seems like. I mean, there's been a few teams that have clinched, but it certainly seems like that there are plenty of playoff spots to be had. Dalton, how are we feeling today, my friend?
Excited. Very excited. Only the Guardians are safe. Everybody else is unsafe.
Certainly, it seems that way. Thank you for chiming into the comments, by the way. Gardos. Listen, we are going to be talking a lot about the Cleveland Guardians today, as they are in prime position to potentially steal a playoff spot, especially not the Tigers. Tristan Reyes says it is getting down to the wire for them. And then, of course, John does math always in the comment section saying, let's go Rockies, who I'm pretty sure he's still convinced that they are still in position to make the playoffs. But I'm sorry that we're going to have to burst that bubble today, Dalton. But listen, we have plenty of stuff to go over today. Like I said, in the American League, the Guardians are climbing right now. As it currently sits, they are tied for that last wild card spot with the Astros. And those seem to be the two teams in that spot that could potentially get there. Maybe the Mariners fall out or something like that and maybe claim one of those spots in the next week or so. Or maybe the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox are still in that position as well. But the Guardians have certainly made the climb. In the last week, before we talked about this, they have gained a number of games in the standings and now are sitting in a playoff position as of today. So we will discuss that. We'll discuss if they can steal that division from the Tigers. We'll talk about that as well. And the National League is just as crazy. So the National League actually they have 4 teams that have clinched playoff spots as of right now. The Padres will clinch within a day or so, I would imagine. But the Reds and the Mets, listen, we talked about it last week, how we were going to how we thought maybe we'd have a bit of a clearer picture, or maybe it would even become more cloudy. The Reds and the Mets are in the same spot. They are currently tied for that last playoff spot. And the Diamondbacks, the selling Arizona Diamondbacks, are 1 game back of a playoff position. That is beyond what we could have expected from that ball club specifically. So we have that to talk about as well. It also doesn't seem to be a done deal in the AL East. Like, are the Yankees, could the Yankees potentially, you want to talk about stealing divisions, that we talked about the Guardians and the Tigers. Could the Yankees steal the division from the Blue Jays? We'll talk about that. That would be a massive, massive win on the season for the Yankees as they head into the postseason, essentially getting themselves a bye in the playoffs. So before we get into any of that, we always talk about our own teams before. We always rant about our own teams. Dodgers, Yankees. Dalton, you're the defending champ, so you get to go first. What do we have on the Dodgers on this Monday evening?
Man, well, there is so much to talk about tonight in general. I have spent the last several minutes as you've been opening the show just writing down every team's schedule remaining that is relevant. So I have them all in front of me, and I'm ready to speak as intelligently as possible about them. My goodness, there's a lot to talk about. I will spend a moment on the Dodgers. Solid week for the Dodgers. They did enough to kind of hold their position. Look, I'm not happy with the series against the Phillies. Our bullpen continues to be a massive problem. But if there's one, I'll put it this way. If you said, Dalton, you have the option of your team having one massive problem going into the postseason, your lineup, your bullpen, or your rotation, I'm taking the bullpen as the problem that's the most solvable.
Sure.
I was talking with a few friends about it today, right? You think about the wild card series. At this point, it looks most likely that it'll be against either the Mets or the Reds. In fact, I would say it's slightly more likely it'll be the Reds because they hold the tiebreaker over the Mets. We'll get into that. But I think the Dodgers' goal for that series should be to not use any relievers. And here's how that works. You have 3 starters for 3 games. You have your other 3 starters finish off those 3 games because the Dodgers have 6 starters right now. What that might look like is Snell followed by Sheehan in game 1. It might be Yamamoto followed by Glasnow in game 2.
Mm-hmm.
It might be Ohtani followed by Kershaw in game 3. And you hope that between those 6 guys, you can cover as close to 27 innings as possible, which would certainly be the most ideal scenario. Ideally, you only have to cover 18 innings. But I think this is going to be a far cry from last postseason when the Dodgers were a very bullpen reliant team to instead a postseason where, well, all of our starting pitching is all of a sudden healthy. And now it's how many innings can we not use our bullpen for? Mm-hmm. Some interesting notes on the bullpen. There is growing optimism that Brusdar Graterol will return at some point in the postseason.
That'd be big.
There is an expectation that Brock Stewart, coming off of his injury, will join the team in Arizona this week. That's huge if you could get Brock Stewart to pitch reasonably well. And probably the biggest wild card of them all, Mike, Roki Sasaki has been dominant as a reliever in AAA.
Interesting.
They seem to have figured it out. He's throwing 99 to 100 miles an hour consistently out of the bullpen, throwing strikes. I would like to see the Dodgers get at least 2 or 3 major league bullpen appearances under his belt this week before making a decision on how to move forward on that front. Outside of that, you're hoping that Tanner Scott, Blake Trinan, really anybody in that bullpen can figure out how to throw strikes consistently and get outs. It's going to be all hands on deck all the time. I'm very grateful that Shohei Ohtani makes it so that we can basically carry one more pitcher than anybody else. We're going to need it. So it's but look, in general, what I saw this weekend from the Dodgers, especially in Saturday's win, is what felt like the Dodgers from last October and this April. A team that felt inevitable, that offensively is clicked in. Mm-hmm. It seems that Max Muncy being healthy is more important than just about anything else in the universe for the Dodgers. And now that Max Muncy is back healthy, we're hitting really well. Mookie's hitting, Freddie's hitting, Shohei's hitting. Will Smith is injured. That's another major concern, but it sounds like there's optimism he'll be back for the at least the NLDS. So I am increasingly optimistic about the Dodgers' chances over the last few weeks, which is a far cry from what I felt in the weeks that preceded those.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I've expected from them. I think Roki Sasaki coming back as a reliever would be insane. Because I mean, listen, I thought when Yamamoto came over, I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. When is Sasaki coming over? Because that kid's ridiculous. So I'm interested to see how this Dodger team can navigate the postseason. I'm going to be unbelievably interested in how they manage their bullpen, which arms they feel confident about heading into the postseason as far as their rotation is concerned, what they legitimately try to do about, trying to eat up innings in the back of the bullpen if they just simply can't get outs in the early parts of the game. Who are they going to go to because it's going to happen, and it's going to happen several times in the playoffs. Who are they going to go to get the big outs in the ninth inning? That's what I'm really interested to see if they'll commit to a guy by the time that day comes, right? And maybe it changes, maybe it's just a vibes thing that Dave Roberts goes and feel like maybe he just goes off of that. But I'm curious if he commits somebody to that role going into the playoffs, given how their bullpen has struggled.
Yeah, I mean, I think in theory, you would like to trust that Tanner Scott can perform in that role, but there hasn't been a lot of indication performance-wise that he is going to be that guy. John, who, by the way, happy birthday, John. Today is his birthday. He makes a great point there, which is probably my biggest fear going into this postseason is Dave Roberts is in a position where he kind of is going to have to figure it out on the fly. And what that means to me is reacting to what you're seeing in real time. Like if you bring, for example, Tanner Scott out of the bullpen, and you can very quickly tell that he is not on it, you need to pull him after 3 batters, period. Has to happen.
Yeah.
Those are the things I don't trust him to do. He will let pitchers sit out there and die. Another guy that I'm slightly concerned about is Tyler Glasnow. He has not been as effective recently. What I don't want to see is Roberts look at building up a rotation for a postseason series and go, well, we're paying him a lot. He's really talented. We have high expectations for him. Let's start him and let's leave him out there to give up 4 or 5 runs if he doesn't have it. That's the other thing that I'm concerned about him doing. And I really hope that I'm not asking you for this clip a few weeks from now, because I can see it right now.
Yeah.
As far as what I'm hoping for, I'm hoping that we send our 3 best current starters out there. To me, that's Snell, Yamamoto, and Glasnow. Or excuse me, Snell, Yamamoto, and Sheehan. Emmett Sheehan has been unbelievable. He's arguably been the best pitcher on this staff this year. I would like to see him get playoff starts. I do understand if they say, hey, that doesn't make sense, let's keep Ohtani in a starting role. I'm fine with that as well. What I don't want to see are Kershaw or Glasnow starting games for the vibes. They've both been fine, but this rotation's been unbelievable, and they've been the 2 weakest links.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll see, man. Like I said, I'm so interested to see how they manage their pitching staff heading into the postseason, because it just has so many, like, there's so many variables when it comes to that. Like, I don't know that any other team in baseball has that sort of, I don't even want to call it a problem, right? But like, they have this sort of dynamic when it comes to their pitching staff. I think the Dodgers kind of stand alone in that fact. So let's move to the Bronx. Let's go to the Yankees here. Listen, it's hard not to be happy with how they've played over the past week or so. I would have liked to sweep the Twins. Who cares? It's you take 2 out of 3 from the Twins. You take 3 out of 4 from the Orioles. Fine, right? Those are teams you should beat. You go 5-2 in that week. I'm good with it, right? Now you get to go home. You finish out the year with 3 at home against the White Sox and then 3 more against the Orioles. I mean, listen, you're in prime position to steal a division title for free. Okay. All you need is for the Blue Jays to be a little subpar against the Rays. And who else are they playing? The Red Sox? I want to say you need them to be a little bit subpar between the Rays and the Red Sox. The Red Sox are a playoff team, and the Rays are, I mean, I don't think the Rays are going to punt for the rest of the season. Like, they're not going to the playoffs, obviously, but I don't think they're going to punt the rest of the way through. I think obviously the Yankees right now are like, they feel confidently that they're going to make the playoffs, and they should. This is more of like, where are we going to be? So I think the Yankees are going to play the next 6 games really, really hard. Like, this is going to be like intense, legit. Like, I think you're going to see them manage these games as if they really mean something, and it's weird to say, right? Because they're games against 2 really below average teams, right? Chicago and the Orioles, who have no playoff hopes this year, obviously. But these are going to be games that they're going to look at as unbelievably important. You're not going to see starters last in these in these 6 games. You're going to see quick yanks. Like, they want that division title. They know what they're signing up for if they settle for the wild card spot. If you have to play the Red Sox for 3 games in a wild card spot, they don't want to be in that position. Granted, you just took the most recent series you had against the Red Sox, but you don't want to put yourself in that position. You'd much rather get yourself into a position where you have some time off to rest your arms, to rest everybody, right? Like Aaron Judge coming off the injury, you want to give him a couple of days, right? Stanton needs as much time as he can get. Let's get him some days. So I'm good with that. When it comes to what they could look like in the postseason, I think the question is becoming who is going to get that game 3 start. Fried and Rodon are given. If you're going to ask me today who I think gets game 3, I think it's Cam Schlittler. Like, I really think it's Cam Schlittler. Now, if Cam Schlittler gets game 3, who gets game 4? My guess is probably still Luis Heel. But again, if Will Warren shoves in his last start, do you consider that? Right? So it's something that needs to be discussed amongst them. Obviously, I think they need to figure out what they can do to, and this is a similar issue to the Dodgers in some sense, where they have to figure out a way to get 27 outs, right? Their bullpen, as talented as it is, they just struggle to get outs on a consistent basis, right? You just don't know. And this is really the issue. It's not like there are a couple of arms in the bullpen that you know to avoid. The Yankees don't know who that guy is going into every game, right? One day, Luke Weaver's a stud. The next day, he blows up. Devin Williams is the same way. Camilo Doval is the same way. Fernando Cruz is the same way. Like, they all have their stretches of absolute dominance. And then the next day, 4 runs, 4 earned on 4 hits in a third. That's the way the Yankee bullpen operates. So that'll be the struggle. Try to get yourself into a division title so you get yourself into less of those situations. I mean, listen, man, if they can pitch, I think they'll do well. I'm not confident enough that they can pitch. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of where they're at. Mike, we're 1 week from the end of the season, and only one team in the American League has even clinched a playoff spot.
I know.
That's insane. Like, yep. I mean, I think we feel pretty confident that the Yankees are going to be in, but technically not yet.
Right. Yeah, but
they'll be in. I do think that it's a little bit of an uphill battle with Toronto at this point. Because it's not just those 2 games, it's also the tiebreaker. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be a game up on them. You're basically 3 games back with 6 to go. So it's a tough ask. I think if you're the Yankees and you want to win the division, you have to win out, really.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, because if you go 5-1, you need Toronto to go 2-4. I don't think that's very likely.
Yeah.
Right. So I think your best bet is you go 6-0, Toronto goes 3-3. I could see it. But I also think if you're the Yankees and you have an opportunity going into that final weekend against Baltimore, let's say Toronto takes 2 out of 3 from Boston, right? And you also take 2 out of 3 and you haven't gained any ground, right? At that point, I do wonder if going into this weekend, you rest some bullpen guys, right? You say, hey, let's keep Doval down for a few days. Like, let's, you know what I mean? And you kind of just coast through the weekend as best you can. I do think that becomes a factor. So,
sure.
But yeah, I mean, look, I think if you're the Yankees, you have to feel good about Fried and Rodon, right? That's a good starting point for a staff. And I think, to me, it'd be Schlittler and then Warren. I don't trust Luis Heel. I'm not sure he has it up here right now to pitch in the postseason. It felt kind of messy last year, and the strike throwing concerns are very real.
Sure.
with him.
Yep.
And so that's where I'd go with it. But look, we've talked about it all year. The American League is wide open. So, I mean, I wouldn't. I'll put it this way, Mike. I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Yankees get in and just march straight to the World Series comfortably. It could, that wouldn't shock me. They have the ability to do it.
From your lips to God's ears. Let's make that happen. Yeah, listen, I there's, as much as you don't trust Luis Heel, and I don't really trust him all that much either. I've seen Will Warren get shelled way too many times to want to pitch him in a postseason game. And listen, he's got strikeout stuff, right? Like his strikeout metrics are ridiculous, but at the same time, the guy gives up 7 bombs a game, it feels like sometimes. Anywho, let's move to, listen, as far as like score updates today, we got one game to report on. It is 6-1 right now. The Braves are beating the Nationals in Atlanta in the bottom of the third. Huge game. And then you just have some games later tonight. Brewers and Padres in San Diego. That's Freddie Peralta and Nick Pivetta on the bump for that one. That's actually a phenomenal pitching matchup. And then the Cardinals and Giants in San Francisco with Michael McGreevy and Justin Verlander on the bump for that as well. And that's it. That's all we have for games today. It's a very light Monday to close out the season. Just 3 games. By the way, who's getting shelled on the National side? Oh, it was Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore had 4, gave up 4 in 2 innings today, but they gave him a quick.
Yeah, the Braves might quietly figured it out in September.
Yeah,
with nobody watching, they've really turned it on, which is kind of interesting. It does make me wonder if they're going to be back next year. A big part of them turning it on was them sweeping the Tigers with which the Guardians are certainly thankful for.
Yeah, right. Acuna homered in that game, by the way. So yeah, it is 6-1 Braves in Atlanta right now over the Nationals. Let's move to, speaking of the National League, by the way, this is the big one. Okay. This is like the big thing. Obviously in the American League, it's a big deal too, but like with the amount of hype that the Mets got prior to the season, I mean, they are at this current moment, Dalton, they are tied with the Reds, but they're on the outside looking in.
Right.
So every playoff spot is pretty much clinched, right? The Brewers have clinched, Phillies have clinched, Dodgers have clinched, the Cubs have clinched. The Padres are 5 games up of that last wild card spot. They will clinch in the next day or 2, right? So it is Reds, Mets, Diamondbacks are a game back. And I don't feel confidently about the Mets. I don't.
Why would you? This is a Mets team that, first of all, they're finishing their season with 6 games on the road. The Mets are 13 games under 500 on the road this year. They're 31-44 on the season away from Citi Field. And they got no more games left at Citi Field. It's a Mets team that, 80-76, Mike. To be honest, at 80-76, they're lucky they're even in contention.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of years, that's a record where you don't have a shot. So,
yeah.
And look, we've been beating this dead horse every week, so I don't want to do it too much, but we were right about them. It was the pitching. They just can't get anybody out. And this is look, just to kind of set the stage, right? So the Reds basically have a 1-game lead on them, is how this works.
Yeah.
The Reds have 3 against Pittsburgh, which I'm expecting to be the 3 biggest regular season crowds at Great American Ballpark in years. They've been really selling that hard on social media. They're doing all kinds of specials for those games. I'm expecting big crowds at Great American Ballpark against Pittsburgh, and then they go to Milwaukee. Well, Mike, Milwaukee
are gonna punt, right?
They've got the only thing they've maybe got to play for is the 1 seed, but do they really care? Either way, you're hosting an NLDS, right? So, for the Reds, it's funny because this has been the case for them in the past and they haven't done it. But for the Reds, it's just take care of business this week and they're in.
Yeah. Who do the Brewers play? The Brewers, okay, so they're at San Diego to close the year. So they're at San Diego and then they go home to play the Reds. That's how Milwaukee closes the year.
Yeah.
So hold on. So how many games are they ahead for the one? They're 3 games ahead of the Phillies for the 1 seed.
Right.
They're going to punt this week. They're going to punt. I mean, they don't want to lose out, but if they take one game from San Diego, you know what I mean? Like, they feel pretty comfortable about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually curious who holds the tiebreaker. Let me look at the Phillies schedule because I want to see who holds the tiebreaker between them and Milwaukee. Because if the Phillies do, it's a little bit interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Brewers took 2 out of 3. No, the Phillies took 2 out of 3 in September from the Brewers. Let's see, when else did they play?
Yeah, the Phillies finished the year at home against the Marlins and then at home against the Twins. So, you know, they are playing 2 very non-competitive series. I mean, the Marlins are not
Brewers,
a pushover.
okay. Yeah, the Brewers won 4 of 6. So the Brewers have a 4-game lead on the Phillies, is what that is.
So they're going to punt almost this whole week.
They've got, especially this weekend. Like, I think this week, right, you're getting the last start for Peralta, right? They're probably lining up their top 3 guys for their last start of the season against the Padres.
Right.
You know.
And then it's going to be kids. And then it's going to be kids playing against, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think they'll probably want to get McGill and Uribe and these other guys work at least during the midweek.
I'm sure.
But,
that right. But I mean,
yeah.
like
they'll
bench
weekend,
Yelich, they'll bench, you know what I mean? Like they'll bench
the thing. This weekend against Cincinnati is when I think you'll see them relax.
Right.
And here's the thing for the Mets. On the road at the Cubs, who are not playing well, but they're better than the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the road at the Marlins, who quietly still are technically in the playoff hunt. And by then, I think they'll be eliminated. But still, that Miami team has been good the second half of the season and will absolutely care about knocking the Mets out of the playoffs.
No, they'll care. They'll absolutely care.
I'd rather be playing Milwaukee than Miami this weekend.
I agree. I agree 100%. Especially if you're the Mets, right? Like, if you're like going up against a division rival like that, that's something totally different. Yep. And the Cubs, I don't think, are not going to care. Like, the Cubs are in a similar position of the Brewers where, like, that 4 seed that they have right now is fairly protected, right? Like, they're 3 up on the Padres right now for that spot. Like, that's fairly so they could, like, but like early this week, they're going to try and win a game or 2 just to secure themselves. So I don't know. The Mets they have genuinely, like, they made a huge mistake this offseason simply thinking that they can just manufacture pitching out of nothing because they did it for 70 games last year. Like, that was the big flaw of this year. Bravo on spending all the money and getting Juan Soto. And Juan Soto had a fine year this year. Let's not pretend.
He was great, yeah.
But at the same time, down the stretch, Pete Alonso hasn't been very good. Francisco Lindor hasn't been very good. Juan Soto had a great few months, but even Juan Soto, as of late, has not been very good. So, like, now you're looking at a team that your top performers in the lineup aren't hitting. You can't get anybody out in the rotation. Kodai Senga has been useless for you this year. And now your bullpen that you tried adding to can't get anybody out unless his name is Edwin Diaz. So, like you're at a point now where, like, okay, now you have a legit uphill battle to fight. I'm not certain. Who are the Diamondbacks? The Diamondbacks are home against the Dodgers.
Host the Dodgers and
home against the Dodgers and then at San Diego. But at that point, too, San Diego might not care either. So the Padres might not care. The Dodgers, I mean, are the Dodgers at this point just in, like, a getting work stage?
No, the Dodgers care. They care in at least the first part of this week because you're still they want to secure the division, right? And right now, I mean, you're 3 base. Well, let's see. Are we 3 or are we 2 games up on? I think we might be 2 games up on San Diego. Let me check.
They're 3 games up.
3. You're 3 games up on San Diego. basically 4 games up on San Diego because you own the tiebreaker. So yeah, look for the Padres to pass
Win
the
one
Dodgers,
game and you're good.
Yeah, I'll put it this way: if the Padres go 6-0, the Dodgers would still have to go 2-4, right?
Right.
Once you win 1 game, now the Padres have to go minimum 5-1. Once you win 2 games, they have to go 6-0. The magic number is 3 for the Dodgers. So I would have to guess that the Brewers and Dodgers will combine to win 3 games in the next 6 when you think about Brewers, Padres, and Dodgers, Diamondbacks, right? If that happens, the Dodgers have won the division and won't care this weekend in Seattle, which thank goodness we don't have to care in Seattle. So, yeah, I mean, Arizona is interesting. Like, they're very much in this, right? They're 1 game back. They've been playing really good baseball lately. They're 42-36 at home, 7-3 in their last 10. If they take 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers and the Reds and Mets aren't playing well, Arizona could be in pole position going into a series against a San Diego team that doesn't care. So it's interesting in a lot of angles.
This is why this week is so great. And the speculation leading up to this week is so great. How do you think this plays out? Like I said, I do not feel confident in the Mets. I really don't. And they really bit themselves this week also because after they just took 2 out of 3 from the Padres, they lost 2 out of 3 to Washington. Like, that's a series that you really like. You played well. You played well at home against the Padres. Like, that was a series where, like, you're thinking at the end of that series, like, okay, like, let's push here. And then you stay at home, by the way, and drop 2 out of 3 to Washington, who, like, has no shot at anything this year.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a shot in the neck.
Yeah. It's horrible. I mean, that's all you can really say if you're a Mets fan. And then while that's happening, the Reds are 4 games sweeping the Cubs at Great American Ballpark. I mean, you can't help but laugh, right? It's just so beautiful. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be tough. This is going to be really tough for the Mets. If you're asking me what I see happening, I think the Reds are going to go 4-2. I think they'll either take 2 out of 3 or sweep against Pittsburgh, and then I think they'll either take 1 or 2 from Milwaukee. So I think some combination of 3-1 or 2-2. I think they go 4-2. That would require the Mets to go 5-1.
Well, no, that would require them to win out, would it not?
No, because if they go 4-2 and the Mets go 5-1, the Mets finish 1 game ahead of them. They're tied right now.
Okay, you're right. Yes.
So I think the Mets like, to me, if I think 5 is the number the Mets need. I think they need to win 5 out of 6. And if Cincinnati gets hot, the Mets are done. I think Arizona, look, they're playing good baseball. They're still in it, but you just don't love the schedule. Because Mike, here's the tricky thing for Arizona. Think about it this way. Let's say if you're the Diamondbacks, let's say you get red hot and you sweep the Dodgers. Well, guess what you just did? Now your opponent this weekend, San Diego, really cares.
Right.
So it's kind of a catch-22 for Arizona because if they get hot, they're emboldening the team that they have to go play on the road over the weekend.
Right.
So I think Arizona has the steepest uphill to climb, even more so than the Mets.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think it's the Reds. I really think it's the Reds. And we thought, by the way, we've had this discussion before where it felt like, and you said it, of saying the Reds have had so many opportunities to just be that team that sneaks in and takes it from the Mets, right? Because the Mets have been sitting in that spot for what feels like forever.
Yeah.
And they've
been begging to give it away the whole second half, and nobody's wanted to come take it.
I know, exactly. And then all of a sudden now the Reds catch a little bit of heat, and now they're sitting in a playoff position with a week to go. So I don't know. We'll see. Let's move to the
Mike, just for one more second on this.
Sure.
The thing that's wild about it too, it's not like, I mean, look, I get the Reds just swept this series, but the Reds are 6-4 in their last 10.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like at least in the AL, you look at the Gardos and it's like, well, man, the Guardians are 9-1 in their last 10. They've really come on. Tigers 1-9. No, the problem is the Mets have been playing 500 baseball for a long time, and all it took is for one of these teams right on their tail to play just above 500 baseball, and boom, it's gone.
Well, listen, I think we may have even talked about it last week, but the Mets leading into this past week had lost. Like they stole the last game they had against the Rangers on Sunday the 14th at Citi Field.
Yeah.
Before that, they had lost 9 out of their last 10 and 8 straight.
Yeah.
That's what, like, they, for the, like, not this past week, but the week before and leading back.
Oh, yeah.
They plummeted. Absolutely plummeted. So, and that's huge. I mean, they lost 2 out of 3 to the Rangers. They got 4 games swept in Philly.
Yeah.
Lost 2 out of 3 to the Reds, and then lost the last game of the series against the Tigers dating back to September 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's like, but they can't look at the Reds and be like, oh man, it's tough. Those Reds, they just got red hot. It's like, not really.
Yeah.
You've just been shit.
Yeah. All right, I think we need to be done shitting on the Mets. We have listen. We always, because it's fun for us, right? We like making fun of the Mets and we like making fun of Met fans and all of that. But like Met fans, it has easily gotten to the point where Met fans hate our podcast. They just hate us because that's all we do.
Because we tell them the truth that they don't want to hear.
It is like, even when they're good, we poop on them. Like, it's just so bad. Okay. Reset. Let's move to the American League here. The American League is extremely interesting, by the way, as well, because there are several teams still in this mix for essentially 4, maybe 5 spots, right? Like, I think like the Blue Jays and the Yankees, I feel fairly confident that they will make the playoffs. And if the Blue Jays obviously clinch, but the Blue Jays, I think the Blue Jays or the Yankees will be the 1 seed or the 4. I feel fairly confident about that. And that could be the only thing that changes between them. Everything else seems pretty open. The Mariners right now hold the 2. That's not set in stone. The Tigers hold the 3. That's not set in stone. The Red Sox and Cleveland right now have the other 2 wild card spots, with the Astros on the outside looking in, but tied with Cleveland for that last spot.
I'm gonna disagree on one thing. The Mariners are set in stone as a 2 seed, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
They have a 3-game lead in the division, plus the tiebreaker, and they play the Rockies the next 3 nights.
Okay.
It's done. It's done with. They're the number 2 seed at worst.
They have a 3-game lead in the. Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, I read that wrong.
They swept this weekend in Houston.
Yeah. Okay. So they do have a 3-game. All right. So yes, Seattle. Right. Okay. So Seattle's in.
3 games plus the tiebreaker plus 3 in hand against Colorado.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, they're slinging. John does math is pretty upset, by the way. No Rocky slander. You should know better than that, I think. So yeah, this is an interesting one. This is listen, we talked about the Guardians and how unlikely we thought that it was for them to claim a wild card position, and this is just last week. And we thought that the only way that the Guardians would make the playoffs was if they stole the division from Detroit, which is, by the way, not out of the question. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with this cluster. I mean, this is just so much is going to happen in the next week. And it's all going to be super, super eventful. How do you even think this plays out?
Well, I'll take you through the landscape of it as fully as I can.
Yeah.
And I think the Guardians are the best linchpin to look at this from, because they've got multiple ins now. Like they're well over 50% to make the playoffs at this point.
Wow.
So first of all, the Guardians are tied with Houston right now for the last wild card spot. Okay, let me see Give me one
By
second.
the way, they're upset with you in the comments. Yeah, who slanders the Rockies on John's birthday?
I
Wow,
do.
you're a dick, man. That's dick move.
I guess. Okay, so the Guardians own the tiebreaker with the Astros. I just wanted to make sure I had that right.
Wow.
So
Okay.
the Guardians own the tiebreaker with the Astros, meaning they just have to be tied with them, right? They don't have to beat them.
Right. Yeah.
Guardians this week host Detroit in the biggest series of the season for both teams.
Oh my God.
Huge. I have to imagine that those games at Progressive Field the next 3 nights are going to be nuts. Honestly, Ohio is the state to be in the next 3 nights for baseball.
Yeah, Cincinnati and Cleveland. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a
Cincinnati
party.
and Cleveland are both going to be electric atmospheres the next 3 nights. But and then they host Texas this weekend, who technically is still in it, but they're out.
They're out.
And so that's what Cleveland's looking at. Now, I think for Cleveland, if you take 2 from the Tigers, you're probably in. Okay?
Mhm.
Because if you take 2 from the Tigers, Cleveland they also own the tiebreaker with the Tigers. So if you take 2 from the Tigers, you come out of that series tied with them for the division. And all you have to do is just match whatever the Tigers do this weekend. Now, the Tigers end their season against the Red Sox, who, by the way, still have plenty to play for.
Oh, yeah.
Cleveland finishes their series with Texas. So, and all Cleveland has to do is tie them. So I think Cleveland in the AL Central, and this is without even taking into account how freezing cold Detroit is right now. They've been playing awful, but if you don't take into account hot versus cold, I would say Cleveland already has a 45% chance of winning the Central. That's where I'd put it.
That's interesting.
Because you get those 3 games at home, all you have to do is make up 1 game over the next 6, because if you tie, you win. Okay, so that's one way they can get in. Then you look at Cleveland and Houston. Now, Houston's schedule left at Athletics at Anaheim is not difficult. That is one concern. But I think even there, you own the tiebreaker, right? So all you have to do is tie them over the next 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
So I give Cleveland a 60% chance of coming out on that side.
Yeah.
For Cleveland this week, I genuinely think if you go 3-3, I'm 75% confident you make it in. If you go 4-2, I'm 85 to 90% confident you're in. If you go 5-1 or better, I don't know if it's possible for you to not be in.
Wow.
I mean, because you think about it, right? They just have so many paths.
Yeah. Yeah. It is going to be so. It is interesting because here's something that I think is interesting to point out. The Red Sox end the season at the Blue Jays and at Detroit. Or no, I'm sorry, at the Blue Jays and then home against Detroit.
Well, and
while, by the way, hold on one second. While the Astros finish at the A's at the Angels. Is it possible that the Astros and the Guardians both get in and the Red Sox get it, are the odd man out?
It's totally possible. And this brings up another positive spin of this for the Guardians. Because that Detroit-Boston series is amazing for them.
Right.
Right? Because you think about it, if I tell you right now, hey, Mike, Detroit is going to sweep Boston, that helps the Guardians. Right?
It does. Yeah, right. You're right.
Bumps Boston down 3 games in the standings, just like that. Let me look. Quick, give me a second. Red Sox, Guardians, season series results. Boston Red Sox hold the tiebreaker over the Guardians. So that's one thing that works against them. But still, you think about that, right? If I tell you Detroit sweeps Boston, that's good for Cleveland. Doesn't help them in the division, but it certainly helps them in the wild card.
Yep.
If I tell you Boston beats Detroit and sweeps them, well, actually, if Boston sweeps Detroit
might not make the playoffs at that point.
Yeah. Because
that's wild.
Detroit's also only 1 game up on Houston. So you think about it this way, those 4 teams, basically, right? When I say those 4 teams, I mean Detroit, Boston, Cleveland, Houston. One of them's going to miss the playoffs, but it's much more likely to be Boston or Houston that misses because one of Cleveland and Detroit is going to win that division and get that in.
Right.
So the Central teams have the advantage here in general.
Yeah. This is way more interesting than the National League, by the way. Like,
oh yeah,
and you know what's crazy about this is that, and what makes this more interesting is that all of these teams that are vying for a playoff spot they're all playing each other. So like that's what makes this so great is that the Red Sox play Detroit and Detroit plays Toronto and Toronto and Detroit plays Cleveland, and like it's amazing how all of this is kind of shaping up. I think this week is going to be super, super fun. I don't want to lose this comment from John Does Math because I think it's unbelievably interesting the way that he throws this out there. It's a statistic where he talks about run differential, AL wildcard slots. I want to read it out for the people that might not be watching but listening instead. AL wildcard slots with run differential. The Yankees right now at plus 144. The Red Sox at plus 105. The Guardians at -9. Baseball is so funny. It really is.
Get hot.
Dude, it is so wild. It is so wild. Tristan Reyes, we're going to make the playoffs with a negative run differential. If you don't like that, you don't like Cleveland baseball. I feel like there's a lot of people that don't like Cleveland baseball, but and it doesn't have anything to do with run differential, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so this is why I'm so excited about this week. Because I was thinking through it, right? I was like, how many teams care about their games this week? And this is not including the Phillies. It's not including the Brewers, even though they technically can still swap places, right? Mm-hmm. This is not including the Giants, the Marlins, the Rangers, some of these teams that are technically still in it, right? Yes. There are 12 teams that have a lot to play for this week. That's a lot. I mean, that's more than we usually get.
Yeah.
The following teams to me, like, are tuned in this week. And you have Mets, Reds, Arizona, Dodgers, Padres in the NL. In the AL, Houston, Cleveland, Detroit, Boston, Yankees, Toronto, Seattle.
Yeah.
All of those teams are playing meaningful baseball the last week of the season. That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool. That's very cool. Yeah. So how does it end? So let's kind of cap this topic here because there's so much to track, right?
Yeah.
How does this end? Who finishes where? Who's in? Who's out?
Here's what I think.
One team is out, by the way.
One of the 4 in the AL.
One of these 4 teams is out. 3 of them are going to get in.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down what I think each team does. I think Houston takes. I'm going to say Houston goes 4-2.
Okay.
By going 4-2, Houston finishes 88 and 74. Okay. Because they're at Athletics and at Anaheim. Okay. Cleveland, I think, goes 4-2. They're playing good baseball. I think even if they lose 2 out of 3 to Detroit, they can still sweep Texas. I think realistically they probably take 2 out of 3 in both those series. Okay. If Cleveland goes 4-2, they're also 88 and 74. That means they're in because they hold the tiebreaker over Houston. Okay, so Cleveland's in. Detroit, with how poorly they've been playing, I think is an underdog in both of their remaining series at Cleveland and at Boston. Okay, so I show Detroit. I'm going to have them going 2-4. Okay? Detroit goes 2.
They lose 2 out of 3 to both.
I think they lose 2 out of 3 to both, or they get swept in one of the series. That leaves Detroit at 87 and 75. Last team involved there is Boston. I think Boston goes 3-3 at Toronto versus Detroit. That puts Boston at 88 and 74. So my prediction, Detroit is the odd team out, misses the playoffs entirely, and the wild card goes Boston, then Cleveland, then Houston, This would result in Seattle hosting Houston. And this would result in Boston hosting Cleveland because they own the tiebreaker against Cleveland. Do I have that right?
So wait a minute. So wait a minute. So
No, I don't have that right because in this case, Cleveland would win the division. So Cleveland would be the 3, right?
Right. The Yankees would be the 2.
Yeah, Yankees would be the no.
No, wrong.
Seattle.
No.
Seattle's the 2.
Right. Yes.
Toronto's the 1. Okay,
Right.
so
Correct.
Toronto's the 1. Seattle's the 2. Cleveland's the 3, division winner.
Right.
Yankees become the 4.
Yes.
And then who holds a tiebreaker between Boston and Houston? Let me look that up. Let's see. Astros. Nope. Red Sox won 4-6. So this would mean Boston would get the 5. Houston would get the 6. So you would have
Yankees, Red Sox, and then you would have Guardians, Astros
in Cleveland. Yep. So that's what I think we get. I think we get Cleveland hosting Astros. And I think we get Yankees hosting Red Sox. Tigers.
And the Tigers.
Massive
that is sick.
I think that, like, if you ask me to put money on a result, that's where I'm putting my money on what happens now.
That is so remarkable. That is so crazy. I like, holy moly.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, because I'm just going off strength of schedule, right?
Yeah. Part of me wants to agree with you in the sense that, like, the road for Detroit to stay in is really tough. Like, because they are playing so many teams that just care about what this last week means for them. I think there's that part of it. The other part of it, like I said, the reason why I brought up the Red Sox before is because I think it's entirely possible that the Red Sox just totally blow this thing up and end up missing it altogether. So I will play devil's advocate here, and I will say the Tigers stay in. They won't win the division. I think the Tigers. I think Cleveland wins the division. Like,
okay,
I think.
So let's do this the way I did it. Let's go records for those 4 teams in the last six.
Okay, all right. Let's do it.
Detroit at Cleveland at Boston. What do you have Detroit doing?
Detroit will lose 2 out of 3 to the Guardians. Yeah, that makes it interesting now, right? So they lose 2 out of 3 to the Guardians. They will win 2 out of 3 against Boston. They'll go 3-3.
Okay, so Detroit, if they go 3-3, that puts them at 88 and 74.
Correct.
Okay. And then you already have Boston going 1-2 versus Detroit.
1-2 against Detroit. I think they lose 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays don't want to lose the division, and it's in Toronto.
Okay, so we've got Boston winning 2 games. That has them finishing 87 and 75.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I already know you have Cleveland going
Cleveland.
You already have them going 2-1 over Detroit, and then what do you have them doing against Texas?
Let's say they win 2 out of 3 against the Rangers at home.
Okay, that brings Cleveland to 88 and 74.
Yep. And then who's left? The Astros.
The Astros, the Astros, they're in their own little world playing at
the A's and at the Angels. I'm going to say they go 5-1 against those teams.
That would put Houston at 89 and 73, giving them the number 4 seed.
So I would have to do Seattle then too, right?
Well, in that scenario, in order for Houston to pass Seattle would have to go 1-5, and they're playing the Rockies.
They won't. All right. Yep.
So that's the thing, right? That's why I'm not including Seattle in this. So,
yep.
in that scenario, you end up with Houston as the 4 seed. You end up with Cleveland as a division winner as a 3 seed. You end up with Boston out, and you end up with Detroit. No,
No, because then the Yankees
the
would.
Yankees are the 4, right? So Houston is the 5, and Detroit is the 6. So you would have Cleveland hosting Detroit, and the Yankees hosting Houston.
Right. Yeah, I'll go with that.
Man, Mike, how would you feel about the Yankees hosting a Houston team that just finished 5-1?
Against the A's and the Angels, I'd be very unimpressed.
Still, it's a hot team.
Would going 5-1 against the A's and the Angels really make you hot? Is that what we've come to in baseball?
It wouldn't make you cold.
I think you'd be lukewarm. I think you'd be about room temperature. That's what I'm going for with that. Tristan can't take it anymore. Can't take all the hype about his Gardos. Unbelievable, man. It's such a crazy landscape right now for playoff baseball. It really is interesting. So, let's touch on this briefly, right? Since we're in the American League, we'll kind of touch on this briefly, and we touched on it a little bit before. Do the Yankees really have a shot at the division now for the Blue Jays? Now, again, the Blue Jays schedule is, I would say, legitimately harder than what the Yankees are going through. And it's against division opponents. The Yankees play the worst team in the division, and they play the White Sox at home. So, as you said before, it's an uphill battle. But do the Yankees actually have a shot at this? And, could they put themselves in a position where they're not playing in a wild card series?
Yeah, so it's for the Yankees to get in, this is what would have to happen, right? If the Yankees go 6-0, Toronto has to go 3-3 or worse.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you go 5-1, you need Toronto to go 2-4. And if you go 4-2, you need Toronto to go 0-6. If you go 3-3, no chance. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think Toronto's going to go 0-6 at home against Boston and Tampa.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think for the Yankees to win the division, I obviously think it's very unlikely, right? I mean, at this point, I would give it an 8% chance. In order for it to happen, I think you probably have to go 6-0.
Yeah, you probably have
to. Because otherwise you need Toronto to have not just a 500 week, but a losing week, and that's going to be tough.
Right. Even against Boston and the Rays, are, like I said, I don't think the Rays are pushovers, but the Blue Jays are very clearly a better baseball team than Tampa.
It's going to come down to tomorrow through Thursday because, look, if you sweep the White Sox, which I think the Yankees are going to sweep the White Sox. Like, they're good at beating up on teams like that, right? Mm-hmm. If you sweep the White Sox and Toronto soils their pants against Boston, then there's a lot of pressure going into the weekend.
Yeah, sure.
So even if you sweep the White Sox, if Toronto wins 2 out of 3 against Boston, you're still done pretty much.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, certainly. No, I agree. I'm not going to be one of those, crazy Yankee fans that says, that it's, buckle up, it's going to happen. No, I still think it's a far cry from actually coming to fruition. But, to be honest, I thought by now the Blue Jays would have had the division wrapped up at this point. And they don't. So whatever. We'll see. We'll see how this week goes. I don't remember, at least in the past couple of years, we didn't have this year, last year.
No.
But I don't remember, and maybe it's just because I haven't been paying attention, as closely as I am now, as, like I did in the past, but I don't remember a year being like this at the end. Like actually having this much up in the air. You know what I mean? Like I don't remember being like this.
There have been a few seasons that come to mind. I want to say it was like 2007 or 2008 with the Rays, with the Evan Longoria home run. Like there have been a few seasons that have been wild down the stretch like this. But as far as like last 4 or 5 years, there haven't been as many. Now I'll say this too: this for Manfred is a dream as far as like what he envisioned when he expanded the playoffs. This is exactly why he expanded the playoffs. I wasn't a huge fan of it at the time. I still think it lends a playoffs that's already very prone to chance to be even more prone to chance. But this is certainly making for some good entertainment this last week of the season.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to have a lot more people watching baseball this week than you have in a little while.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My eyes are going to be locked. I don't know what I might have to subscribe to MLB.TV just for this week and then cancel my free subscription. Maybe.
Hey, I'm subscribed to it all year, every year, and it's worth it, man. It's a lot of fun.
I'm sure. One of these days I'm sure I'll get there. But all right, Dalton. So I wrote in the description that we had Hot Corner today, but we are lending a different ear here to Hot Corner.
Yeah.
And I just want to, I just want to warn everybody that Dalton might cry. He might cry. We might see for the first time in Bicoastal baseball history that Dalton actually shows some real human emotion.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see about that. But look, so I just, I need a moment here to talk about Clayton Kershaw and just what he's meant to the Dodgers, what he's meant to baseball. And, look, there's a real argument to be made that Clayton Kershaw is the greatest regular season pitcher in the history of the game. He has the best ERA of any pitcher that's thrown at least 1,000 innings at the major league level. That's absurd. He led the league in ERA 4 consecutive seasons at one point, 3 Cy Youngs, including a year where he won Cy Young and MVP. A no-hitter that should have been a perfect game if not for a Hanley Ramirez error. I was also at that game. And that was also I think it was the 3rd highest game score ever achieved by a starting pitcher. Meaning you could that was a top 5 starting pitching performance in the history of the game. People who hate the Dodgers, and I know there are a lot of them, and that's okay, are going to want to talk about his postseason numbers, which I completely understand are not to the standard that he set in the regular season. I would simply call to your attention the difference in sample size between the regular season and the postseason. And I would also call to your attention that he was also really good at other times in the postseason. In the World Series against Houston, he was dominant twice at home, in Game 1 and in Game 7. He has been as important to my fanhood as a Dodger fan as any other human being on earth, tied maybe with Vin Scully in terms of what he means to a Dodger fan of my age. He made his debut when I was 15 years old in 2008 against the St. Louis Cardinals. I remember it was a Sunday in May. That stage of my life, just like this stage of my life, I was locked into every single Dodger game that came on TV. And I remember hearing about this 20-year-old kid. I couldn't believe we were calling him up at the age of 20. And, he looked a little choppy his rookie year. And we know what happened from there. But it's just been such a blessing to watch this career, the dominance over the years, what he's meant to the city, what he's meant to Dodger, to just everybody. And also just the way he's carried himself, Mike. People will say what they will about him as a postseason pitcher. And, people will say what they will about what they think his politics are, even though he's never really explicitly spoken about politics in his career. The reality is this is somebody who has treated everybody in the media with grace. He is just consistently beloved against all of his teammates that have ever played with him. You're just not going to find a better representative for the game. And he's going to be in your broadcast booths, I would argue, as early as next year, if not the following year. But one of the things that's just been so cool about it is, his wife, Ellen, has been sitting in the same seats in the first row of the loge for 18 years. And as those years have gone along, the group of people with her has grown as they've had, I think, 5 kids now. And watching his kids, Charlie and Callie, who were born when he was big leaguers, watching them break down in tears in appreciation for what they'd gotten to watch just within their lifetime the other night when he got pulled from the game was one of the most special things I've seen, right? Because obviously you see his wife's emotion. And his wife's emotion is a really cool thing. And what we've seen that through the years with the World Series, with the no-hitter. And, Ellen is very loved in the Dodgers community as well. But watching the kids feel that emotion and understand the weight of it, when I remember when he was dominating the league and they were not even born, right? It's just been really fun to watch that family grow, watch what they've built, watch what they've meant to the city of LA. I'm just really grateful for it. I'm grateful that we'll probably get to watch him one more time this week and in whatever capacity we get to watch him in the postseason. I've said for years to never take for granted a Clayton Kershaw start, because you're watching greatness, the likes of which you only get to see probably 2 or 3 times in your life. So grateful for Clayton Kershaw, his contributions not only to the Dodgers, but to baseball and to my life personally. I can't think of a more influential human being in sports for me than Clayton Kershaw. The only other person I can even put in that category is Vin Scully. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. Yeah, it is remarkable how great Clayton Kershaw was. Like you said, he's arguably the best regular season pitcher of all time. Just from a quick search, that from 2009 to 2023, so 14 years, he had an ERA over 3 twice, which is unreal. And then again, these last 2 years, as he's gotten older in age, just the age 36 and 37 season, he had a 4.5 ERA in last year. He only made 7 starts. And then this year in 21 starts, he still has a 3.5 ERA. So he's still a more than serviceable big league pitcher at this point. That 4-year stretch of first and second place Cy Young awards was incredible. The following season in 2015, 232 and 2/3 innings. He had 301 strikeouts. He's a 3,000 strikeout guy.
Which, by the way, I don't know that we'll ever see another one.
We might not. I mean, look, he is, here's what I'll say about Clayton Kershaw. From my point of view, from being a Yankee fan and not having the NL West on every night, Clayton Kershaw was always quietly the best pitcher in the game, right? I always felt like in the years where he was dominant, it was more about the guys that made more noise in that department. It was always the Madison Bumgarners. It was always the Justin Verlanders. It was always the Zach Greinke's that seemed to have gotten more attention in that span of time. But Clayton Kershaw always had him beat in every single thing, right? Like Clayton Kershaw always had this level of dominance over what seemed to be everybody else in the sport, and nobody paid attention to it either. I don't know if it was, a disrespect sort of thing, or it was just considered a given of how people expected him to be great. I mean, 2 out of 3 years, and where his ERA was under 2. I mean, you just don't see all that much anymore, especially in a day where, hitters are only getting, they only hit for more power, and they only it's just incredible the way that he was able to, carry himself, just fucking dominate for so long. It felt like.
Yeah, I mean, for me, he's the last of his kind, at least for the time being, in terms of and look, there are guys in today's game that, have room and time to build a similar legacy, right? Like the Tarek Skubals and the Paul Skeens of the world. But, you know, one thing that you hit on that I really want to highlight, there were so many pitchers that for a year or two, people were like, is he overtaking Kershaw?
Yeah, right.
And then sure enough, 3 years later, oh, that was silly. Oh, is this guy overtaking Kershaw? 2 or 3 years later, no, that was silly, right? Because he was just the constant through all of it. I mean, you look at the 2010s, right? Like at times it was, ooh, is it R.A. Dickey or is it Clayton Kershaw for Cy Young? I mean, these are legitimate conversations. And don't get me wrong, there were guys who had better individual seasons than he did. But that type of consistency over that type of time is something that we've hardly ever seen in the history of the game from anybody.
Yeah.
And obviously for me, like three things about it that make me really unmitigatedly happy. One of them is the fact that he won a World Series in 2020. And we finally got to see that monkey come off of his back a little bit. And then the fact that we won in 2024 in a full season, and he got to celebrate in a parade, and he got to address the crowd at Dodger Stadium, and it felt real for him. You could tell how much that meant for him. And the third thing that I'm really, really grateful for is this season, because he had been written off by me in terms of his ability, by me and many others, but in terms of his ability to be a like real contributor, as opposed to, hey, he's a legend, he's going to get his innings, that's fine. Mm-hmm. No, he's been arguably the most, like outside of Yamamoto, he's been the most consistent and important pitcher to this rotation for the Dodgers this season.
Yeah.
But bar none. Yamamoto is the only other guy who I put in that category with him this season. He's been excellent. Yeah, he's had a few stinkers here and there, but for the most part, he's gone out there every start this season and given you 5 or 6 innings. He's given up 1 or 2 runs, and he's keeping you in the game. And it's been incredible to watch because he's doing it while throwing 88. So yeah, I mean,
and Kershaw was never a guy that threw like gas.
No, I mean, at his peak, it was
95.
It was 92 to 95 at his peak. Yeah,
right, exactly. Like that's one of the things that I appreciated about Clayton Kershaw was that Clayton Kershaw actually, and I'm sure you'll know what I mean when I say this, like he actually pitched.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Clayton Kershaw had a very old school style or an old school feel. Like he felt like a 1990s pitcher. You know what I mean? Like it was almost like you were throwing it back a little bit with Clayton Kershaw. It's not like Paul Skeens where he throws 102, and the stuff is super, super nasty and all of this. Like, no, Clayton Kershaw threw 93 miles an hour and had a wicked curveball, and that's how he got people out.
And, I want to ask you something else, too. Over all those years, right, where he was left in playoff games too long, put in horrible situations out of the bullpen, there were a lot of circumstances that led to his postseason numbers not looking so great, right? Sure. There were a lot of games where he was dominant for 4 or 5 or 6 innings and was just left out there too long by Don Mattingly, right? There were times where Dave Roberts just put him in an awful spot, right?
Yeah.
Never once, when confronted with his shortcomings in the playoffs, did he shy away from it. No. Never once did he get snippy with a reporter about it. At times it would have been totally understandable. Never once did he downplay it, right? This is a guy who took full ownership of his shortcomings when they existed and was very, very quick to give away ownership of his greatness. That's the kind of selflessness that, like, has been such a massive part of the Dodgers culture for the last 18 years, and especially the last 13 years of this era of Dodger baseball. He's going to be very missed in that clubhouse and very missed in general.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. First ballot Hall of Famer. I would say a 0.5 ballot Hall of Famer. He's before 1. And yeah, he will undeniably go down as one of the best starting pitchers of all time. He'll be up on that list. It won't be, there aren't going to be very many names, I think, before him. You're going to have to go back to the, like the Walter Johnsons and the, Lefty Groves. Like
Walter
that's
Johnson, Pedro Martinez. Like there are a few guys that there are very few guys in that rarefied air with him.
Yeah, 100%. And that's how we'll close the show today. So appreciate you all for listening. I'm glad for everybody in the comments, by the way. Tristan Reyes, again, a dying breed. It's what greats do. They find ways to win. So a good corner today, Dalton, by the way, a very good hot corner today. And you stayed composed. You stayed good. You texted me earlier this week. You were just like, I might cry.
Yeah, I mean, I was just sitting there watching the clip of him leaving the game, watching his press conferences, watching him talk about the letter that his wife wrote him. It was a lot, man. It was a heavy week, but having a few days to process it definitely helped.
I'm sure it did. So, again, if you're new to the program, I feel sorry for you. We've been at this for 2 years now, and it's great. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network every Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern. I'm sure we will be back. Are we back next week? I want to say
we're back in playoff baseball. Yeah,
we are. I'm pretty sure we're back next week. So, again, every Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you're here for it. Check out all the programming on the Grid Network. Make sure you do that. And we'll see you next week.